What's up, everybody? Welcome to Human Innovation Tarot. My name is Eddie with Imagine Life Development Center, and this is the February newsletter. If you're new to my channel, I'd greatly appreciate it if you click the like and subscribe button. All the other information you need to know is in the description box below. So essentially, this video is going to be about two different things here. Well, not two different things. It's going to be about one thing, but I'm going to be accomplishing two different things here. So I'm going to be checking in just a moment. I'm going to be taking a look at essentially what the theme of February is for all of us. So there is going to be a reading associated with this. So the reading will be the second half of this video. So for those of you naughty little kids out there who like to skip ahead, it's going to be very important for you to listen to the entire video, okay? Because the first part of this is the context for the reading. So if you skip to the reading, then you're not going to have the context for what the reading is actually about, okay? So I'm recording this, well, it was technically January 31st. It's late. It's technically February the 1st now. So it just changed to February the 1st. So we're officially now into February of 2025. Usually the first month, the first 30 days going into a new year is really like the cusp energy or the bleed over energy of last year. So January was still technically 2025. It was the last dying out, the fading, the remnants of 2024, not 25. So as we move now into February is going to start to feel more, the energy is going to start to feel more like what 2025 is really going to be about. Now, it's just the entry point. So obviously, February is kind of like we're starting to feel the energy of 2025. Now, once we get into March, we'll be like, we'll essentially be at the beginning point, like the start of it all. Like we'll be in it, officially in the energy of 2025. So February is kind of like the transition, the bridge. Okay. So January was like, the last leg of 2024, or I should say 2024's energy. February is like the bridge energy. So we're fading out of 24, officially done with 24's energy. And we're starting to move into 25. So by the end of February, moving into March, or Pisces season, we will officially be in the energy of 2025, okay? So just something to think about there. Now, before I sat down to record this video, I did a lot of meditating and thinking and just, tapping into to think about what the divine wanted me to talk about, like what's most important for the month of February. And so I got three topics that I'm going to share with you, and then, like I said at the end of the video, I'll pull some cards and get more details about that. But the three topics that I want to share with you all is it's about making decisions is the first topic. The second is the concept of alchemy. And when I say alchemy, what I'm referring to is our ability to take things in life that are difficult, the things that have happened to us, whatever those things are, the struggles, the hurdles, the obstacles, the challenges, the losses, the betrayals, anything in life that has been, that you would consider a challenge, something that you've gone through or that you've experienced that's been very difficult, and maybe you've not been able to get over that, or maybe it's something in your life that's kept you stuck, or maybe it's just something that's you feel it in your body. It's something that's still a part of you, and it's having a negative impact, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, but you know that it's there, right? And so the concept of alchemy is turning lead into gold. And so essentially what that means in a practical manner, a spiritual but practical manner, is learning how to basically transmute the difficulties in life, the challenges in life, into something powerful, right? It's finding the empowering meaning in everything, especially the things in life that don't feel so empowering. It's like, how am I going to find anything powerful or empowering out of a situation like this? So for example, I can imagine, maybe somebody who is a relative of those who recently, they lost their loved one because of the plane crash situation, right? The helicopter that flew into the plane recently on the news. So, imagine just life is going, as expected. You're just doing life as normal, and then the unexpected happens. And see, this is how life is we all have the illusion of certainty, because tragedy isn't something that's happening to us all of the time. And so every day we wake up and we don't experience something tragic. We don't experience a major loss. We don't go through something insane or crazy. We're not necessarily the unfortunate person who was either, obviously, if you were on the plane or you're in the helicopter and, you're dead and you're gone, like, obviously you're dead and you're gone. At least you've left this world, right? Your soul has left this world. But if you're still here and you're somebody who's a relative, you're connected to that person, you love that person, that's a totally different experience, because now it's not so, today was the day that the thing happened to you. And I've been in that, like very personally, I've been in that type of situation. Not just from an outsider's perspective, but someone involved in that situation. So years ago, when I was 16 years old, that's way back in 1997, I was on my way to church with my girlfriend, her sister, and my best guy friend at the time, when we were hit by a drunk driver. I was asleep in the backseat of the car, so I don't remember what happened. But when I woke up 48 hours later, my girlfriend was dead. Her sister was dead. My friend, he was on life support, and I was on life support. And so, imagine falling asleep in the backseat of a car, and then when you wake up, you're on life support, and you don't, subconsciously, something bad happened, but you don't know what it was. But then they have to fill you in and say, hey, you were hit by a drunk driver, ABCXYZ happened, and here you are, on a life support machine, clinging, fighting for your life. So I've been there. I've had that happen to me personally in my own life. So certainty is an illusion. We all think that just because we've been lucky enough to avoid some major traumatic disaster, we start to take it for granted. We take it for granted that every day that we wake up and we're not one of those people that has to go through something tragic or terrible in our lives, it's easy for us to take life for granted. So we have the illusion of certainty. And I call it an illusion because at any moment, at any time, at any hour, at any second, anything could happen. That could be the moment, where the thing happens, unfortunately, to you. Now, obviously, and hopefully, you or me or anybody, well, hopefully we're not those people, but the bottom line is we're all going to go through something in life. Now, we may not, my story versus your story versus somebody else's story versus maybe the people who just went through this tragic loss of their loved ones that were on that plane. That may not be your story or your situation, your scenario, but being a human being and living through life, we are all promised some form of pain or difficulty. And alchemy is the art of learning how to turn the lead into gold, or as I like to call it, finding the treasure in the pile of shit. It's learning how to transform any situation that we've gone through that's disempowering, that's limiting, that's painful, that's a loss, a betrayal, the things that impact us in a negative way that could potentially shape our character, shape our identity, shape our future, leave a negative imprint on our subconscious, leave a negative imprint on our on who we are, our beliefs, and many other things. Right? Essentially, anything that we experience that could limit us in a negative capacity. Alchemizing that situation and transforming it into a power. Okay, that's what true alchemy is, right? It's learning how to transform things that seem or feel disempowering. It seems maybe almost impossible to find a way to convert that experience into something that's powerful and beneficial to us. But the truth is it can. There's no such thing as a situation that any one of us has ever gone through that cannot be converted into something profound or powerful. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's necessarily easy. I'm saying that it's possible. That's what alchemy is. Okay. So alchemy is just a fancy spiritual terminology for transforming the pain, the suffering, the difficulties, the disempowering situations, the losses, the betrayals, you name it. Anything that's negative, it's transforming anything negative and disempowering into something positive, something that is empowering. That's what alchemy is all about. And that's why it is that's why it's a spiritual tool and a spiritual ability, because you're not dealing with something that is out here in the tangible reality. You're dealing with something that's shaping the character and the identity of who you believe you are, or what you believe is possible for you as a result of the experiences that you've had. And in this case, we would be referring to negative experiences, because unfortunately so many people allow their trauma to define their character. And when we allow our trauma, our losses, the betrayal, the things that happen to us, the negative things that happen, the negative impacts and the negative experiences that we have to shape our character and our identity, then obviously we're going to live a very miserable life, because, we've partnered with this negative, this illusion, right? Instead of converting it into a power. In which case, not in which case, but in all cases, that's essentially what those things are meant. They're meant for. That's why we experience them. We may not be aware of it in the moment, but that's always why we experience them. Anytime you go through something difficult, challenging, painful, it's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for empowerment. And it takes a level of awareness, conscious awareness or spiritual awareness, to learn how to find and see the treasure in the pile of shit. And that's what alchemy is. It's going, okay, I'm going through this thing. It's painful. It sucks. I didn't want it. I didn't ask for it. But nevertheless, here it is. And maybe sometimes we did. Maybe sometimes we did create it. Maybe sometimes it is the cause and effect, or the karma of, or the consequence of decisions or actions of, of choices that we've made, right? A lot of times we create karma for ourselves because we make choices, or we choose to be a certain way or act a certain way. And then obviously the consequences of our choices come back to haunt us at some point. But regardless of whatever the situation is or however we landed there, it's always a growth opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to alchemize, to transform and convert a negative experience, whether it's our fault or not, doesn't matter. Convert that negative experience into a positive, empowering experience, something that's going to benefit us, something that's going to add value to us. And if it adds value to us, that also means that at some point, it'll add value to somebody else. Because we can, once we've alchemized it for ourselves and we found the treasure in the pile of shit and we have it in our hands, and go, okay, I found the treasure. I've identified what the treasure is. I know what the treasure is. Now I can share that treasure. I can identify that treasure, because when we've gone through something, we can help other people in similar situations. And so when somebody else is going through something that we're going through and they end up in our lives, or somehow our paths cross because we're meant to, then we have something valuable to share with them and say, hey, I've gone through something similar as you, or something worse. And this is what I found. This is what I discovered. This is who I became, and there will be an opportunity for you to share the value of what you learned in that experience, of what you've alchemized. You'll have an opportunity to share what you've alchemized with that person, to show them that the experience that they're having, no matter how bad, how terrible, how disempowering, whatever, how negative the experience is, that there actually is a treasure there. There's an empowering meaning. There's always an empowering meaning in everything. There always is. It's just, it takes a level of awareness to figure that out. Now, do most people have that skill? No, I don't think that any of us have that skill by default. But those of us who have learned that skill or acquired that skill over our lifetime, doesn't matter how old you are, we have a beautiful opportunity to be leaders, in the sense that we can share that knowledge. We can share our experiences with those who feel lost in their experience. It's like, hey, I can relate to you. I've been in an experience similar to the experience that you're going through. This is what I learned. This is what I did. This is how I alchemized it. This is how I transformed it into something powerful, right? So alchemy is the essentially the second thing, and the third thing is spiritual uncertainty. Okay, so just as a summary, what are we talking about here? So, what the divine wants us to contemplate in February, the month of February, as we segue into the fullness of the 2025 energy. Because January was the cusp, it was the bleed out. It was the last remnants of 2024. February is like the bridge. We're, every day that we go forward into February, we're stepping deeper and deeper. It's like we're starting out, we're not even in the pool yet, right? And then every day that goes by, we're taking a step into the pool, going down the stairs into the shallow end of the pool. And then as we go further and further into February, we're going deeper and deeper into 2025's energy, so that by the time we reach March, essentially we're in 2025 100%. So so the three major messages here, okay, is decisions, alchemy, and spiritual uncertainty. So I've talked about the second one. I just went on a whole long tangent about that. So I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on point number 2, because I just, essentially I just gave I just started with number 2, which is fine. There wasn't an order here, but one of the things that we need to become proficient at is learning how to alchemize our negative experiences and transform any negative experience that you've had. I don't care how old you are. I don't care where you are. I don't care what's happened to you. As we step foot into February, the divine, it's not me. Again, I'm just here to be the messenger. The divine wants us to learn how to start to transform any negative experience that we have into something that's empowering. Okay? Period. Doesn't matter who we are. Doesn't matter what you've gone through, etc. So, and that's what that process looks like. Alchemy is just learning how to find the treasure in the pile of shit and convert any negative experience that you've had. Doesn't matter how long ago. Doesn't matter if it's recent. Doesn't matter if it's something long ago in your past. And partnering with the divine to figure out, because a lot of people, we don't understand. No one teaches us how to do this. So a lot of people will struggle. It's like, well, what was the empowering meaning of this? Doesn't matter what's happened to you. It doesn't matter how unfair. It doesn't matter how unjust. It doesn't matter how painful, right? Whatever's happened to you that you perceive as a negative experience, an unjust experience, an unfair experience, whatever that looks like for you, the divine is asking you to get curious about how can this possibly be something that could potentially empower me? And if you partner with the divine will show you. So just like in everything in life, there's the path of least resistance. There's the easy way of doing it. And then there's the hard way of doing it. Now, the ego and doing it yourself and struggling and wrestling and all that is the hard way, right? It's not being curious. It's not trying to understand what the empowering meaning is. It's holding on to the injustice of it. It's holding on to the pain, the bitterness, the resentment, the anger, the unforgiveness, whatever the thing is. It's just holding on to the fact that it was negative and that's all you can take away from it, right? And so until we are willing to release that and say, hey, look, this shit sucked and it hurt, but I'm willing to release that to learn something here. And there's a willingness there because the divine has two non-negotiables with all of us. The first one is the divine will never violate our free will. And the second one is the divine will never give us anything that's not in our highest good. So the divine isn't going to violate your free will if your free will choice is to, hey, I want to hold on to my belief that whatever happened to me or whatever the situation that I find myself in that's unjust or painful or whatever that is, if your choice is to hold on to it and your choice is to continue to believe in the disempowering meaning and story that you've attached to it, then the divine's like, cool. I'm not here to violate your free will. So there is a level of conscious decision-making that needs to be made of going, hey, I'm going to get curious about this experience. And here's the thing, guys, I call it, some people call it like trying on a jacket, right? It's like you can try something on to see if it fits. And if you don't like it, you can always take it back off, right? Or I like to say, it's like if we were sitting at a table and I was like, hey, what do you think about this? A concept, an idea, a new way of thinking, a new way of believing, a new way of interpreting, a level of curiosity that you haven't explored, right? Well, that's like taking your car keys and setting it on the table. Well, those car keys aren't going anywhere. If you set your car keys on the table, they're not moving, they're not going anywhere, right? And so to consider, to be open to the possibility of other things that are on the table. It's like, okay, well, my car keys are on the table. What else is on the table? Well, we got there's a salt shaker, there's a pepper shaker. Maybe there's some napkins on the table. Maybe there's a menu on the table. Like, just because you set your car keys on the table doesn't mean that you can't go explore and look and investigate what else is on the table besides your car keys. And if you don't like what's on the table, you can always take your car keys. Your car keys aren't going anywhere, right? So the metaphor, the analogy is this: is your beliefs. If you decide that you want to hold on to your beliefs, you can always adopt your beliefs. Getting curious about new possibilities, a different way of thinking, a different perception, a different point of view, doesn't mean that you have to let go or change the current beliefs that you hold on to. It just gives you more options, right? It just gives you the ability to go out and consider different points of views, different perceptions, different ways of processing something or viewing something or learning from something. You can always go back to being who you were before and thinking the way that you thought before. And, it's like, well, I want to go back to feeling like a victim. I want to go back to being pissed off and angry. I want to go back to feeling the injustice of something that happened to me, and this wasn't fair. It shouldn't have happened. And, why did this happen? And all, you can go back to that. We all have that freedom. You can always go back and adopt and reclaim any belief that you had. But if you give yourself permission to be curious and explore different opportunities, then you might find something that's more beneficial, something that's more empowering, right? So curiosity is the key here in this regard, all right? So that's the concept of alchemy, because a lot of people, and this is really what this is about, okay? So like if I was just to rewind here, let's just rewind this whole thing. If you're going into February 1, 2025, and you're completely honest with yourself, and you don't have to be honest with me, there's nobody, you're watching a video. This is between you and you, or between you and your higher power, whatever you believe. But if you're stuck in life, if you're unhappy, if you're unfulfilled, if you don't like the life that you're living, if there's no progress, if there's no growth, if there's no sense of purpose, no sense of meaning, there's no passion, there's no joy, if you feel like you're just waking up and you're living in this mundane rat race, you're a hamster on a wheel, right? And it's interesting because when you put the little hamster on the little wheel, he starts running and running and running and running, and the faster the wheel turns, the harder he tries to run. What's ironic about that situation is no matter how fast he runs, he's still in the same place. He hasn't gone anywhere. So all that energy and all that effort and all that momentum that was being used is still in the same place, right? And there's a lot of people out there, and maybe you're one of them, maybe you're not, where you feel like you're using all this energy of your life and you have nothing to show for it. My life is the same as it was yesterday, the same as it was last year, 5 years, 10, maybe 10 years. But you'll know where you stand with you and the life that you're living based on the truth of how you feel. And if you feel purpose depressed, if you feel that void, if you feel unhappy, you feel unfulfilled, and you feel like there's more and you're not gaining the more, you're not tapping into the more, you're not experiencing the more, there's something inside of you that seems to elude you. You can't grab hold of it. You can't get it. You can't acquire it. But you sense it. And that longing inside of you that's going unfulfilled is scratching at you, clawing at you, nipping at you. It won't leave you alone. Right? And you're just like, man, my life is not... Something inside of me is telling me that the way that I'm living my life and experiencing my life is very depressing. Like, is this it? Is this all there is to life? Am I just going to keep waking up and doing this same old thing tomorrow and the next day and the next year and the next year and the next year? Is it going to be 2050 and I'm doing the same shit? I might be physically older. My body might have aged. My numerical age may have gone up. But what about the results of my life? What about what I'm experiencing in life? Am I happy? Am I fulfilled? And if you're not, then that's something to pay attention to, because your soul is telling you that there's something more that you were created for. And the fact that you're not experiencing the more that you were created for is leaving you with a feeling of dissatisfaction, of unfulfillment, of longing, of desire. And that's why you can ignore it. And we can only distract ourselves for so long, by the way. And this year, we're not even going to be able to do that. So any type of distraction or medicating, whether it's partying, alcohol, sex, whatever the distraction that you or all of us have had up to this point, it's not going to work in 2025. And if you're unsure about that, you can go watch my video, which is 2 videos that I posted. It's a part 1 and a part 2. It's by far the most important video that I will upload this year until about July. Okay, and it's called the Universal Year 9, part 1 and part 2, because we are in a Universal Year number 9. But this isn't like any other 9 Universal Year that we've ever been in. Okay, when you add 2025 up, it reduces to 9. I'm talking about numerology, which is the end of a 9-year cycle. That's what 2025 is. It's the closing out of the last 9 years. But it's unlike any other 9-year we've ever been in before, for lots of other reasons, which I explained in the video. So I'm not going to re-explain it here. But you can go back and you can watch those videos if you haven't, and it'll explain all of this to you. Because we're not going to be able to get away with this stuff anymore. You're not going to be able to escape and medicate and distract yourself from your purpose depression, your spiritual bankruptcy, the void inside of you that's saying, hey, this is why you're unhappy, why you're unfulfilled, why you're searching for more, you want more, you're longing for more, but you're just focused on the wrong thing. You're focused outside of you. Your focus is on, okay, well, how do I find that fulfillment? How do I find that thing that's going to fill up my soul and my spirit in a way that is fulfilling? Well, it's not out here. That's the lie. That's the illusion. That's how we've all been taught. We've all been trained. We've all been conditioned to look outside of ourselves for the thing that's supposed to fulfill our soul. That's not what's happening. The dissatisfaction and the discomfort, the longing, the void that we're feeling inside of us is an alarm that's saying, hey, come in here and talk to me. It's there to get our attention about where we're supposed to put our focus, right? So it's like if you saw smoke coming out of your kitchen, you wouldn't run out of your front door and go look in your mailbox. Like, I see smoke in my kitchen. I think there's a problem. Let me go look in my mailbox. It's out here somewhere. You wouldn't be looking up and down the street going, I don't know. I saw smoke in my kitchen, but I don't see any smoke out here. I can't find the problem, right? It's like, no, the smoke was in the kitchen. Where are you going to go look? You're going to go in the kitchen. That's where the smoke is. Obviously, the problem is wherever the fucking smoke is. Well, why is it that we do it the opposite? Why is it that when we feel discomfort inside of our soul, we go out here looking outside in the world going, well, I can't figure out I'm so unhappy and so unfulfilled inside. The problem must be out here. No, the smoke isn't out here. The smoke is in here. The dissatisfaction, the discomfort, the longing, the unfulfillment or the lack of fulfillment is inside of us. So why are we looking out here instead of where the smoke is, right? And so that's what the divine is wanting us to do. The divine is wanting us to turn our attention inside to go actually start looking and get curious about what's going on in here, going on inside of us, and to sit with it and have a conversation with it, and to look at it, to engage with it, to learn something with it, right? And only then will we understand it. Only then can we begin to be led in the direction of our true fulfillment, because it's not going to be outside of us. And unfortunately, whereas in the past years, You might have been able to distract yourself with drugs, alcohol, toxic relationships, sex, being a workaholic, or all these things that we do to medicate ourselves and to distract ourselves from the discomfort going inside of us. This year, whatever you've done, whatever your go-to has been to distract yourself from the dissatisfaction going on inside of your soul, that's not going to work this year. It's not going to work this year. This year, that's going to be taken away from you. The pacifier, the distraction, the security blanket, the thing that we all have as humans to distract us from, our spiritual bankruptcy, that void inside of us, that dissatisfaction, we're not going to be able to distract ourselves this year from that anymore. It's being taken from us. Now, I don't know when exactly for you, you're going to have that experience of, oh my God, I can't escape it anymore. I used to be able to do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z, and I could escape this feeling instead of investigate this feeling. But now I'm doing the same things that I used to do in the past that used to give me relief and comfort and distract me from having to face or investigate that discomfort inside of me, but it's not working anymore. It's not working. In fact, nothing's working. In fact, it's only getting worse. The more that I try to escape it and avoid it and distract myself from it, it just gets louder and more intense and louder and more intense. That's what's going to happen this year. Okay? So you have nowhere to run. Not me, not you, not anybody. There's no more running. There's no more hiding this year. Okay? The light is going to be shown and cast on our dissatisfaction in anything that we have ignored inside of our soul. And we're going to have to confront it. Whether you want to or not, whether you like it or not, every single person is going to have to confront whatever their relationship to their spirit and their soul is. We're all going to have to face that this year. Doesn't mean you still don't have free will, but nevertheless, we're all going to have to face it. It's like the judgment card in tarot. Every single person is being called to quote unquote judgment. We're all going to have to stand before the truth. That's what judgment is. When you go into a court, the court is a metaphor of what's considered legally just or legally binding or the legal truth, if you will. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but it's a power that's higher than you. That's the metaphor. And so when we have to stand before the judge, it's essentially just saying that we're having to stand before the truth and we're going to be shown the truth whether we like it or not. We don't have to like it, and we have free will. We'll do whatever. We'll continue to do whatever we choose to do because we have that right, that spiritual right. But I feel that it's going to be very difficult for people to continue in the same ways that maybe you or whoever we've continue in the same disempowering ways that you've continued up to this point. Hence the end of a 9-year cycle. It's the end of what? It's the end of doing things the way that we've been doing them that have been disempowering to us, that haven't served our highest good. So every once in a while, the divine, God, source, the universe, whatever you believe in, the spiritual laws that exist, they force our hand. They back us into a corner, so to speak, of going, okay, you can do whatever you want, but you're at least going to have to face the truth. You're at least going to have to look at the truth of it, and you're going to have to make a conscious decision and go, okay, well, at this point, if I continue down this path, I have no excuse, because the divine is going to show me that if I choose this, then I have no excuse anymore, because I'm going to have to take responsibility at this point for the fact that I chose to continue down a path that was disempowering, it was unfulfilling, and my life sucks. You're not going to be able to blame anybody anymore. You're not going to be able to scapegoat anymore. You're not going to be able to hide anymore. You're not going to be able to distract yourself or pretend anymore. You're just going to have to take ownership and go, hey, you know what? I want my life to suck. I want my life to continue to suck. I want to continue to be a victim. I want to continue to be poor. I want to continue to be treated like shit. I want to continue to have toxic relationships. I want to continue to be unhappy. I want to continue to be sick. I want to continue to be poor. I want to continue. What you fill in the blank. Whatever your life experience is that's unfulfilling for you, whatever's not working out for you, you're going to have to be honest, and you're just going to have to admit it, because that's what the divine is going to do. The divine is going to force every single one of us to look in the mirror and go, if you choose this, then you have to at least be conscious. You're going to have to at least admit that you're choosing it. It's not unconscious anymore. It's not, oh, well, I didn't know. I didn't know that I was choosing a sucky life. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, the divine is going to take that away from all of us. The divine is going to go, well, you know now. So if you choose to continue on this path of my life sucks and I'm unhappy and I'm disappointed and I'm unfulfilled, well, then you have no one to blame but yourself. That's what the divine is going to do. The divine is forcing every single one of us, whether we like it or not, to take 100,000% accountability and responsibility for our existence. That's what judgment is. That's what we're all going to have to face this year in some way, shape, or form or fashion. So that brings me to point number 1, which is decision. What is a decision? People think that a decision is like, well, you just make a choice. Well, that's not really what a real decision is. We make lots of decisions and choices and we change our mind and this, that, and the other. A true decision is not something, a real decision, first of all, is not a thought. It's not a hypothesis. It's not something that goes on in your brain. It's not like, well, maybe I want this for dinner. Maybe I don't want that for dinner. Maybe I want to do this tonight. Maybe I don't want to do this tonight. Maybe I want to watch this show. Maybe I want to watch that show. That's not what I'm talking about. A true decision is something that you decide, and once you've made that decision, you don't go back, right? So for example, if you've ever made the decision to break up with somebody or get a divorce or leave a relationship and you never went back, you closed that door, you quit a job, and you never went back to that job, you made a decision for your health. You say, hey, I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to quit drinking, or I'm going to quit eating a certain thing, or I'm going to get into shape. I'm going to change something about myself. And you followed through. That is a true decision. A decision is something that when you make that decision, you make a choice, that choice is made, and that's it. It's not inconsistent. It's not, well, I changed my mind. Well, maybe this, maybe that. That's not a true decision. In fact, there's a book called The Power of Decision by, I know the guy's name is, the author's name is Raymond something. I don't forget his last name. But it's, it's like a best-selling book. I mean, you if you just get on Amazon and you search for The Power of Decisions by Raymond something or another, it'll come right up. And, it's like one of the, it's super popular, super famous in personal development, the personal development genre. But essentially, he talks about that in the book. He talks about when you make a real decision, it's not something that's wishy-washy. You're not, okay, well, today I'm going to make that decision, but tomorrow maybe I'll make a different decision. That's not a true decision. A true decision is something that when you make that decision, that's it. You burn the boat. You burn your boats to take the island. In other words, there's no going back. It's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is who I'm going to be. This is the action I'm going to take. And we're going to go forward, and that's it. There's no turning back. There's no wishy-washiness. That is a true decision. And so as we move into February, the divine is prompting us and asking us to get curious about the true decisions. If we're defining decisions by something a decision that we make, that we don't change our minds about, that once we make that decision, it's done. If that's what a true decision is, and again, this is just my paraphrase, then we need to reflect on the decisions that we're making in terms of, are we actually making a decision? Because I think a lot of times we think we're making decisions all the time, but our life isn't changing. And if your life isn't changing, then you're actually not making decisions. You might be making choices. You might be exploring choices like, okay, again, your day to day, you're in and out. You're, what am I going to buy at the grocery store? What am I going to cook for dinner tonight? What TV shows am I going to watch? What clothes am I going to wear? There's lots of choices that we make all the time. But a true decision, is something that transforms your life. It's a turning point. It's a moment of saying, I was doing this. That was a decision that I was living my life by, a set of choices, values, beliefs, something that was dictating the way that I was moving forward in life. That was this decision. Well, now I'm making this decision, which might require a different set of beliefs, values, energy, motivation, action taking, removing things, right? This is how I was living. This is how I'm living now. There are two different decisions. There's two different yous that exist in each decision. There's a you that you are making this decision and living your life according to this decision. And there's a you that you are if you make that decision and you choose to live life according to that decision. You can't be the same person in both decisions. Because a true decision is essentially like choosing a timeline, as they talk about in spirituality. If you're choosing this timeline, you're this person living this life. If you choose this timeline, you're this person living this life. Right? That's what a true decision is. And so the divine wants all of us to get curious about the true decisions that we're making, and if they're actually fulfilling us or not fulfilling us. Are they empowering us or are they disempowering us? Are you really happy with where you are in your life? And if you're not, then why? And what decision could you make to change that? Okay. So that's the first point. The second point, I've talked all about the alchemy already. So let's talk about the third point, spiritual uncertainty. So anytime that we partner with the divine, a life lived in spirit or inspired, connected to the divine, not a life lived by survival, self-preservation, and the ego, or plugged into the matrix, because that's all the matrix is. The matrix is just essentially the global, unified perception system, set of values, conditioning that we are all programmed into, which is based on the ego. Competition, survival, all that kind of thing. Duality, good, bad, black, white, right, wrong. All those disempowering control structures that basically leave us vulnerable to being controlled or to living our life in fear, which is another form of control, right? It leaves us vulnerable to the influence of the things that are fearful and controlling and disempowering. That's what the matrix does. Well, to live your life by spirit, by the divine, is to be freed and released and severed and disconnected from, the matrix. Or it's subjecting the will of the ego to the spirit. In other words, the spirit now tames and influences the ego instead of the ego suppressing the will of the spirit, which is what most people do. Most people are spiritually bankrupt because the ego has essentially, suppressed the spirit. Well, when we submit the ego to the will of the spirit, then eventually the ego gets tamed. It's the strength card. If you look at the traditional artwork in the strength card, you see this woman, this angelic woman who's petting the lion, right? She's closing the mouth of the lion, and the woman has an infinity symbol over her head, which is indicating, the divine. And the divine is taming and calming the animal part of us, which is the ego. That's what it is. That's why it's strength. It's courage. We don't live in fear when we live in spirit, because you can't. That's why in the Bible it says perfect love casts out all fear. Perfect love is spirit. It's just another word for spirit. So spiritual uncertainty is faith. Faith is essentially a fancy word for our ability to comfortably tolerate the uncertainty that comes along with choosing to live connected to the divine, our spirit, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. Because when you're connected to the divine, we're not living out of self-preservation. You're not going to get all of the answers handed to you. You're not going to have certainty 24/7. It's literally living essentially in the now most of the time, not all the time. Sometimes the divine lays out a plan. Sometimes the divine gives you the steps. Sometimes the divine gives you, the checklist and all the things that you're supposed to do and all of that. Sure. But for the most part, that's not how it works. I would say 90% of the time, maybe even 95% of the time, the divine is only providing us with what we need in the now moment. And that's why in spirituality and the people who get it, that's why they're always talking about the now moment, right? The power of now, right? Because they've realized the same thing. It's like the divine isn't going to tell you. The divine isn't going to paint out the entirety of the future. The divine is connected to you just in the moment. And in the moment, once you get to a point to where you can trust the divine and you're choosing to prioritize your connection to the divine, you begin to build a trust relationship. And it does takes a level of time and trust, because we're still human and we do have an ego. And our relationship with the divine is no different than a relationship we have with another human being. When you first meet somebody, a complete stranger, you don't just fall in love with them on the first date. At least I hope you don't. If you're healthy, you don't. You get to know somebody, and then over a period of time of getting to know them, you learn about them and you learn to trust them, right? And you build a relationship with them, and then eventually you fall in love, and then maybe you marry and all these other things. But that is a process. It's not just a one-time instantaneous event. We're no different with our relationship to the divine. We have, or even ourselves. How many people don't trust themselves? Right? It's for the same exact reason. You don't trust yourself because you don't spend time with yourself. The same reason you wouldn't trust a complete stranger who just walked up to you and said, "Hey, marry me." It's like, I don't fucking know you. That's weird. That's gross. That's like, you're crazy. Right? That's what we think about somebody like that. Somebody just walked up to us and go, "Oh my God, I'm so in love with you." Blah, blah. It's like, you're nuts. Right? But how many of us have that same belief about ourselves? We don't trust ourselves. Well, you don't trust yourself because you don't spend time with yourself. You haven't cultivated a relationship with yourself. Same thing with the divine. You don't trust the divine because you haven't spent time with the divine. You haven't cultivated a relationship with the divine. You haven't given, whether it's yourself or the divine, you haven't given yourself an opportunity to prove to yourself that you're reliable and trustworthy, which is really more for your ego than it is for your spirit, because your spirit trusts everything. Your spirit already trusts you. You're perfect in spirit, right? All that trust shit and all that need for certainty, all that need for trust and certainty and all that to feel safe, that's part of the ego's programming. But you're a human. We have an ego. So I'm not demonizing the fact that we have a need for certainty. As humans, we all have that need. It's just a matter of recognizing that part of our humanity and not letting that part of our humanity control us just because we need it, right? And if anything, it's just a matter of us taking responsibility and doing our due diligence so that we can build that trust, whether it's with ourselves or whether it is with the divine, because those two things are synonymous. You and the divine, and the trust that you have with the deepest part of you, and the trust that you have with the divine inside of you, those two things are one and the same. So to get the most out of your 2025 and your future and your desires, your fulfillment, and whatever it is that you're longing for, is about you learning to trust the divine, which is really the same thing as me saying you learning to trust you, as long as that inner you is connected to the divine. But if you're leaving it up here to the ego, you're fucked. Because the ego doesn't care about whether you're happy or fulfilled. Your ego is here to sabotage you and keep you safe at all costs. And unfortunately, keeping you safe can also mean keeping you miserable. Because your ego doesn't view keeping you safe as a form of fulfillment. It's just, hey, whatever I think safety looks like is what that's the program, that's the pattern that I'm going to run. That's how I'm going to try to influence you. And some people have a very turbulent and dysfunctional view or program of what safety looks like. There are people who think being safe is being in a domestic violent relationship where somebody punches them in the face and throws them down the stairs, and they refuse to leave that domestically violent situation. People are like, why don't you leave? This person is literally essentially killing you. Well, because the ego's like, yeah, but it's safe. It's more safe here to be punched in the face and thrown down the stairs and almost killed than it is to go out and embrace the uncertainty of not knowing what might happen if I'm out there. The same thing with convicts in prison. They put people in federal prison. Somebody's been in prison for 30 years. That's all they've known. And then they're like, hey, you're out of prison now. This person's like, no. Like, you're free. You're letting me out of prison, but I don't know how to function out here. I've been in prison my whole life. All I know is how to live in prison. I don't know how to go out here and live in the real world anymore. So what does that person do? If the minute that they're freed and they're let out of jail, they go commit another crime so that they get put right back in jail because that's where they want to be. The ego's like, hey, I feel safe when I'm in prison. I feel safe when I'm in jail. I don't feel safe out here in the wild. They don't understand that world anymore. They live their entire life inside of prison. That's the only life that they know. So spiritual uncertainty is our ability to embrace the not knowing of things here and now while we're on our spiritual journey. It's faith. It's like saying, just like for me, for example, I can only use myself. I don't know how, I don't know how my entire future is meant to unfold. I have an idea. I have a vision. I have knowledge. I have a set of skills, and I am proactive. I will do the work. I'll do what I need to do. But right here, right now, in this hot second of this hot moment, no, I don't know how it's all going to unfold. I don't know, what the exact next step is supposed to be or what it's supposed to look like. How am I supposed to get from where I am to, the next objective, the next thing, or, the next level up or whatever that is. I'm just here saying, okay, well, I've learned enough to know in my own spiritual journey that the divine is never wrong. And I've learned enough in my spiritual journey to know that if I trust the divine will provide for me and show me when I need to know. That's what trust is. And because I have walked this journey with the divine, and I've wrestled my way up to the point to where I am now. And the reason I say wrestle, because it's a struggle sometimes. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes I trust the divine, sometimes I don't. Sometimes my ego gets the better of me, sometimes my spirit is in control. I'm human, I'm imperfect, and so are you. And so instead of being hard on myself, I've learned that a better way is to just always focus on the divine. As long as I stay focused on the divine, it doesn't matter if I make a mistake or I fail or, I have a misstep or I have a bad moment or I have an ego moment. It doesn't matter. Because again, I'm not focused on the failure. I'm not focused on trying to do something correctly. I'm just focused on the divine. And the more that I focus on the divine, the more that I realize, hey, my ass is covered. I'm good. The divine has got my back. And because I've tested this for myself, I've gotten the feedback and the assurance that I need to know that the divine has my back. And that's why I have spiritual trust in times of uncertainty. I know that the divine has got me as long as I choose to allow the divine to assist me in my life because of the two non-negotiables that the divine has with all of us, which again is the divine will not violate our free will and the divine will not give us anything that's not in our highest good. So because I choose to align my free will to the divine, and because I choose to align my free will to what is in my highest good, there is no resistance to the divine's ability to show up for me and assist me, because that's the decision that I've made. And so what the divine is inviting us all to do, and that's the purpose of this message, this February newsletter check-in, is wherever you are in your life, what decisions have you made? So let's just summarize just really quick. And I'm going to close out this. This will be a 2-part. This is going to be part 1. So again, part 2, I'm actually going to do a reading. But again, if you haven't watched this all the way through, the reading is going to be pointless. And I'm going to remind you that when I go to record the reading, I'm going to repeat myself. I'm going to say, hey, if you haven't watched part 1, this reading is going to be meaningless to you. So you can watch it if you want to, but if you didn't watch part 1, then this essentially you're just wasting your time. Okay. So, but let's summarize. In closing, let's summarize. So there were 3 points that the divine gave to me to share with you all. So what are those 3 points? The first one is decisions. What are the decisions? Again, defining decision not by something where you change your mind. We're talking about life-changing decisions. Are you deciding in 2025, are you deciding to continue to live the same life that you've been living? That is a yes or no decision, period. You're either going to keep living the same life and you're going to continue to get the same results. Doing the same thing and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. Are you going to continue to live the same life? Yes or no? That is a decision. Or are you going to choose something else? You're going to make a new decision and you're going to become a different person and you're going to experience a different life. It's one or the other. It's one or the other. Okay? That's the first point. The second point was alchemy. What in your life has been painful, hurtful, has been a challenge, has been an obstacle? What has been the major frustration, hurdle, obstacle, challenge, pain, betrayal, loss? What's the thing in your life, the biggest thing, the most impactful thing, the thing that's been affecting you the most in a negative or disempowering way that you need to alchemize and transform into a power? You need to find the treasure in the pile of shit. What is that thing that if you transformed it, you turn the lead into gold, you turn the shit into a treasure? What is that thing for you? What is that thing in your life that needs to be alchemized? It needs to be transformed from something that was hurting you, disempowering you, into something that is now empowering you. This thing is going to serve you. It's going to propel you. You may not know or understand right now how that's possible. That's okay. And you're not going to know until you make a decision first. That's the power of decision. You have to decide before you get the answer. You can't expect the answer of like, well, I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how whatever thing that I've gone through is going to turn into a beneficial or empowering thing for me in my life. I can't see how that's possible. Well, right now you can't, because you haven't yet made a decision that that's what you want. But when you make the decision that that's what you want and you invite the divine to assist you in empowering you through that experience that you've had that you thought was impossible to empower you, well, when you make the new decision and you partner with the divine, you'll find the answers. That I promise you. Okay, so that's point number 2. The third and final point is spiritual uncertainty. It's learning how to live the true spiritual life and knowing that we're not going to be told all of the answers. We're not going to be given the blueprint. We're not going to be given all of the steps most of the time. Sometimes you will. I'm not saying you'll never get the steps. I'm not saying you'll never get the blueprint or told, hey, do this, 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 and this. Sometimes we do get that. But in my experience, 90% of the time to maybe even 95% of the time, we don't. What we're given is just what we need right here, right now. Just like me. All I knew when I sat down to start recording this video, all I knew was that the divine gave me 3 points to talk about, which are the 3 points I've shared with you. And I didn't know. I didn't know, like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I just knew that I had 3 topics. I said, okay, well, I have no idea what I'm going to say. I sat down, I hit record, and what you guys are receiving right here, right now in this reading or this recording is what came through. It wasn't rehearsed. I have no notes. There's nothing around me. This wasn't practiced. It was just all me opening myself to the divine to continue to speak through me because I've submitted myself to be the messenger. That's the level of spiritual uncertainty or spiritual trust, if you will. 2 words for the same thing. If I say spiritual uncertainty, I'm also talking about spiritual trust. Just like when I show up and I do any reading, whether I'm doing a live reading for somebody, whether I'm doing a private reading for somebody, or whether I'm doing a pre-recorded reading that gets posted, it's all the same. I'm just here because I trust the divine. The divine has proven itself enough to me to where I know that, hey, as long as I just do my part and I allow the divine to work through me, the divine always will. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I have submitted myself. I've submitted my spirit, my will. I've submitted myself to the divine to operate through me for the highest good of myself and for the highest good of you all. The highest good of everybody. And because I've submitted myself to that process, the divine has not let me down. Because everything that I'm saying has nothing to do with me or my knowledge bank. It's not pre-rehearsed. Wasn't researched. I didn't practice it. I didn't research it. I wasn't reading books. I wasn't like, okay, what am I going to say? And this, it's just flowing through me because it's not coming from me. I'm a limitation. The divine is not. The infinite inside of me has infinite knowledge. I'm just accessing the infinite wisdom that's inside of me called the divine because I'm allowing the infinite of the divine to work through me. So imagine if you did that. What would that look like for you? Your gift, what you're here to do, what you're here to accomplish. I'm getting tingles all over. It's a good sign. Whatever that thing is for you. What if you were accessing the divine in your life for whatever that thing is for you? Whatever you're good at, what are you talented at? Imagine the infinite possibilities of what would happen if you submitted yourself to the divine and whatever that thing is for you in your life. Your gifts, your talents, your abilities, why you're here, your purpose in life, right? Like, who knows? Who knows who you would be or what you would tap into or what you would create or what you would become or what benefits would occur as a result of that, what abundance you would tap into. You have no clue. Everybody's just an ordinary person until they tap into the divine. It's just we are the ones who put people on pedestals and we look at people as celebrities and this, that, and the other. You could look at Steve Jobs, it's like, oh my God, we have iPhones. Or you could look at, Bill Gates with Microsoft or Elon Musk with Tesla and all these things. And regardless of what your opinion is about the person, I'm not talking about the person. I'm just talking about what it is that they created, what that thing is that came through them that we are all here collectively benefiting from. Like these phones that have transformed everything. This one little tiny thing, this tiny little device. And I've got another one that I'm talking you through right now. which is just an iPad. My camera right now is just an iPad. It's an iPad mini, essentially just a bigger version of an iPhone, right? And so this technology, this device is revolutionary. When barely 10 years ago, maybe like a little over 10 years ago, I guess, when it was introduced, it was revolutionary. And now this thing can do everything. So we have these things, these devices that can do everything. A revolutionary technology that's changed the landscape of the world, and almost everybody has one. So what about you? What would you tap into? What would you bring forth? What would you create? Who would you become? What's possible for you when you tap into the divine? Infinite. That's why this is the best way, in my opinion, to live our life. So this reading, or this February newsletter, as I'm calling it, is really a moment of reflection to really consider the direction of where we want to go as we go deeper into 2025, or as we really start to step foot into the real energy of 2025. Because like I said, January was still technically the last little remnants of 2024. January was not 2025 energy yet. No, now that January is over, 2024 has basically been buried. And so now we're starting to climb the hill of the energy called 2025, starting here in February 1. So now, at this point in this reading, it is technically February 1st, 2025. And as we get closer and closer and closer to March is when we'll be fully immersed. We'll be in the deep end. We will be officially in 2025 energy by the end of February. So now is the moment to calibrate our GPS. Now is the moment to decide, going back to decisions, the power of a decision. Now is the moment to decide. How will you direct your life? What decision will you make? What will your 2025 be about? And I'm not talking about New Year's resolutions or any of that bullshit. I'm talking about something far much deeper than that. A New Year's resolution is just a fad idea about what you think you're going to do in the new year. What I'm asking you is something far more important than that. I'm asking you about the rest of your life. I'm asking you about making a decision about, from this day forward, forever, for the rest of your life. Period. I'm not talking about just this year, just this month, just this week. I'm talking about, I'm going to make a decision about who it is that I'm going to become and the path that I'm going to go on, and that's it. And I'm never turning back. And any and every subsequent year moving forward that I'm here in this body alive, I'm just going to keep going further and further and further down this path that I've chosen. So that's really what this decision is about. Are you going to keep living the life that you've been living? Or are you going to go and you're going to answer the call of your spiritual life, the call of your destiny? That's what this is about. And we all have a call. We all have a destiny of some sort. It's just, will you answer the call? Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. All the other information is in the description box below. And as always, my friends,
I'm not a bloody psychic.